Hello and welcome to New England Cuisine, the program that celebrates the food and flavors of New England. I'm Chef Chris Prosperi of Metro Beast in Simsbury, Connecticut. New England has some of the finest breweries in the country, so tonight we'll be cooking with beer. And who better to join us than Kurt Cameron, president of the award-winning, nationally renowned Thomas Hooker Brewery right here in Bloomfield, Connecticut. Kurt is going to tell us about beer making and share some of his favorites with us. Then I'll make a beer chili. Then we're going to finish up cooking together with a delicious cheddar ale soup. All right, Kurt, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love Thomas Hooker Brewery.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that, and I appreciate being invited on your show.
It's amazing to see how many breweries we have here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
So let's talk Thomas Hooker. How long has Thomas Hooker been here in Connecticut?
Well, it's been around in various iterations since '96. It started as the Troutbrook Brewery down on Bartholomew Avenue.
Everyone remembers that, or everyone that was in Connecticut.
In the old Spaghetti Warehouse building, right? So it went through a couple different owners. We took it over in March of '06.
Okay.
Moved it to Bloomfield in March of '07 with more of an eye on production brewery as opposed to a restaurant. And it's grown nicely ever since. And as you might know, we're looking to build our next brewery.
Yeah, I know. I've heard, and I'm excited about that.
Thanks.
So how many beers now? Because look at them all on the table we have here.
Yeah, and that's not all of them. I mean, so we make a lot of seasons. We make 15 different beers for ourselves, and we also do contract brewing for 6 or 7 other breweries, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
So we'll make a total of 65 to 70 different beers out of that brewery.
Yeah, and this is where I get a little confused because I like to say I'm an end user as far as beer. So I like drinking beer, but it does get confusing kind of to navigate. So let's start with the simplest question.
Okay.
Lager and ale, right? Two totally different kinds of beer, but what makes them different?
Right. So most beers fall into those two categories, an ale or lager. And what we're talking about there is the yeast strain. Ales are warmer fermenting and ferment from the top. Lagers are colder fermenting and ferment from the bottom. Ales take 7 to 10 days to ferment out. Lagers a bit longer because of the colder temperatures. So in general terms, ales are a little bit more complex. Lagers are a little smoother drinking. So.
And color about the same?
Colors
can be different.
Colors can vary greatly based on the malts that are used in those beers.
Which is just another ingredient in beer.
Right.
So, so how about talking us through the ingredients that are in some beers, all beers?
Okay, so there's 4 main ingredients in beer. There's water.
Sure.
There's malts, which can be made up of malted barley, of wheat, things like that. There is yeast.
Okay.
And there is, what am I forgetting here? And hops. Jeez.
Yeah, of course. And that's where you see the guys, right, the brew guys going like this and smelling it.
Absolutely.
Because is hops what gives it its aroma?
Well, hops are used for 3 things in beer. They're used for bittering, flavoring, and aroma. And depending on what variety of hop we add and when we add it, it will impart very different characteristics into that beer. You can actually make the same beer and add the hops at different intervals.
Totally different beer.
Totally different beer.
All right, so let's see what we have here on the table, and maybe we can, as we go through them, sort of say the different, like starting with what a lager is, and then maybe adding like what you do to each individual.
Sure.
All right, so the first one.
That is our Munich Lager. Munich Lager is a Helles style beer, or a light style or bright style beer. Sometimes people hear Munich Lager, they think it's going to be a heavy German beer.
Sure.
Quite the opposite.
Because a lot of German beers are lighter. So what do you do to this one versus like a lager?
Yeah, I mean, it's really, it's what it's made up. Well, this is a lager, actually.
Oh, this is a lager.
This is a lager. So, but it's made up, it's the hop bill and the malt bill. They just make it that. So it's
refreshing.
Nice, light style. Yeah. We actually call this kind of our, like our Budweiser and training wheels. If you're used to drinking light, domestic lagers, this beer is a great beer for you.
And it is. It's very refreshing.
Right.
This is what I like to drink in the summer.
Right.
All right.
So we have our blonde ale, which I think most people have had. So we're gonna skip over that one, but that's an ale.
Yeah.
The next one is a new beer that we have out. It's called Soft Spoken.
Ooh.
It is a Belgian style beer.
Okay.
It's a beer de table or a table beer.
Yeah.
These beers typically are very light in alcohol. So this is only about 3.8%.
Again, in the lager side or ale side?
This is a ale.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and but it's made with a Belgian yeast strain. All right.
Which gives it a totally different flavor.
You feel the esters, the banana clove sort of.
Oh my gosh! So again,
characteristic.
this is like great, refreshing, like hot day, whatever, right?
Absolutely.
Or if you're just looking for that lighter style.
Yeah, if you like a Belgian style and you like something without a lot of alcohol, this is a great beer for you. Okay. So next, our more traditional IPA, which is an ale, obviously.
I have this in my, full disclosure, I have this in my restaurant, and I tend to always, like when I'm looking for a beer at the end of the night, this is my go-to.
Yeah, this is a great beer because you can drink it as what we call a session beer, meaning you're just sitting around having a beer, but it also pairs very well with foods, particularly spicy foods. You know where we do well with this beer? at Asian, like
Sure.
sushi places. They get wasabi.
Yeah.
This will cut through a lot of those spices.
Yeah.
So a
And
great
it has
beer.
a bitterness, right?
And
so
that's the hops.
that's the hops.
Right, right. We use a lot of hops in that.
And I love that. It sort of makes you want another sip.
Yeah, and not only during the brewing process, but we also dry hop that beer, meaning that after it's finished, we'll actually add hops in the fermenter to give it more aroma.
Okay, so this, it is like cooking, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, moving on.
Our traditional Oktoberfest, probably our
look
most
at the color of this one,
award-winning
right?
beer. This is a lager.
Okay, so we're back to go right. So I mean,
back to
so
lager.
color really doesn't make that much of a.
No, it's the malts that are used.
It's the malts that are used
Right,
that add the color.
Right, that'll impart that characteristic. And again, this is a Marzen style, which is what an Oktoberfest is. And again, you know, although a lot of people are making pumpkin beers now,
I'm traditional.
Traditional.
I do like a pumpkin beer sometimes, but if I'm looking at this, you know, for the fall, when October comes and it starts getting a little colder, you want that whatever that flavor. It makes you think that it's this time of year.
Absolutely. So that's a great beer for us. The next is another Belgian that we just came out with.
And again, we're going back to a lighter in color.
Right, right. It's a lighter colored beer. This one's probably about 5% alcohol, but this is actually my favorite beer that we make right now. See the aroma on it?
Yeah.
It's called a Rausch beer or a smoked beer.
It has a smoky aroma to it.
Right. So we use a beechwood smoked malt in this beer, which gives it that that smoky characteristic. Again, great for certain cheeses and foods.
Or barbecue.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's some people call that our bacon beer.
Yeah, bacon beer. Totally.
Right. So,
now, if I had if a BLT with that beer,
it's a fantastic one for that. So
okay.
Next is our Tenacious, a Belgian IPA. Again, a lot of the kind of traditional characteristics of an IPA, but with a Belgian yeast strain.
Okay.
So you get kind of a hybrid between the IPA and the Belgian.
And it's got a kind of goldish, kind of look to it.
Yeah, because we don't filter the Belgian beers. Belgian beers are fined, but they're not filtered.
Oh, that's yummy.
Yeah, that's
okay. So that's yummy.
Yeah, that's a neat one.
All right.
Next, again,
now we're going into dark.
We're going into the big dogs now. This is the Liberator Doppelbock. This is one of the beers that we're probably most known for. This is a great beer. It is about 8.5% alcohol. So
drink them carefully.
Yeah.
but these you want to drink a little on the warmer side too, right? I can feel that it's not as cold as the first beer.
Which is one of the reasons we like to serve this in a snifter, because you can actually control temperature with your hand, much like wines, right? So, but this is a beer that as it warms up, you get a lot more the flavors out of it.
Oh wow,
that's nice, right? And the scary thing is
full flavor.
Yeah,
right?
and you'd never guess that has high alcohol in it, which is why we have to be very careful.
Yeah, very careful when you drink. Yeah, you don't want to drink 2 or 3 of them. Right. So that's when we go back to those.
Right. And now probably
this
is our barley wine, which is it's not a wine, but is a style of beer.
Okay. And why barley wine?
It's just a style of beer. Now this is about 13% alcohol.
Wow.
So
now we're moving into the range of the alcohol in wines, right? Because normal wines are somewhere between 13 and 15%.
Absolutely. So this is a beer that we spend a lot of time with. Okay. We age it in oak barrels. We actually aged this in barrels that we sourced from the Connecticut wineries.
Very cool.
Yeah,
so that's a lineage kind of, keeping it in Connecticut.
And what it does is it smooths the beer out. It imparts a little bit of that red wine characteristic into the product. And the other thing we do, obviously, because these beers are very expensive and very special to make, we wax coat it. We put our little seal on the top.
So can you put this in your cellar and age it for 6 months?
Absolutely. Actually, when people find out we came out with this beer again, I got a lot of people saying, I have a barley wine from 5 years ago. Yeah, isn't it neat?
And now, so 5, is it still drinkable? Because a lot of beers won't last that long, right?
Right, and this one will, because it's so high in alcohol, and it'll take on different characteristics, and that's one of the common misnomers, right? That beers are good or bad. Yeah. But they just change over time, much like wines.
Fantastic. All right, well, that gets us into the show, right? And gets us into our beer phase, right?
Right.
So now we're going to take a little break, and then I'm going to come back, and I'm going to have to decide which beer I'm going to use in my chili.
Okay.
And then after that's done, you're going to come back and make soup with us, right? An ale soup.
Fantastic.
All right, we'll be right back.
With nerves of steel, with incomparable courage, with fierce determination, with uncompromising resolve, they go. And wherever and whenever they go, the USO will be there to touch their spirit, to comfort them, to remind them, to simply and heartfully thank them for the extraordinary gift they give us all. Until every brow is soothed and every hand is held. Until every battle's won and every song is sung. Until everyone comes home.
And we're out. You got plans?
You bet. $50 million Americans struggle with hunger, but we can do something about it.
Excuse me.
What's going on?
Dinner. Please join me in helping put food on their tables. Together, we can feed America.
You guys keep going. I'm gonna get the plates.
Plates!
Find your local food bank at feedingamerica.org/hunger.
Kids will spend 8 minutes decorating their little brother.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes, twice a day. They have the time.
There's a shelter pet who wants to meet you. Meet one today. Visit theshelterpetproject.org. Adopt.
Welcome back to our beer show. So I'm here, and I'm going to be making a ale chili or a beer chili, and I'm going to use the Oktoberfest from Thomas Hooker. In tasting the beers, I just wanted to do a beer that kind of had a richness and a good dark color. So that's the beer I'm going to use. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I've taken a pot, and a good-sized pot, because I like making chili in big batches. So I have a good-sized pot here, and I've heated some oil. And you want to get the oil just until it starts smoking. So you want it quite hot. And then you can hear, right? You can hear that kind of sizzling as the meat hits that oil. All right, so we're going to cook that with just a pinch of salt. Now, if you can see, what I did is I like using cube beef. There are many, many recipes for chili out there. Probably, you know, as many recipes as there are people that eat chili. And one of the things that differentiates the different types of chili is whether you use ground meat, whether it's turkey, beef, or pork, or cubed. So in this chili, I'm using cubed beef. Now, you don't want to use an expensive cut. What I'm using here is from the chuck, so like stew meat is what you use. And if you can buy even cubed stew meat, what you do is you just cut it a little bit smaller than it comes. All right, and you can see it just gets to the point where it just starts to brown, and then I'm going to add pearl onions. Now, pearl onions is what I like to use, and I know you can get them fresh certain times of year, but this time of year or any other time of year, you get them when they're frozen in the freezer aisle of the supermarket. They're really easy to use. You just take them out, thaw them a little bit, and then just add them. They're already peeled and blanched and ready to go. So we add that. And that's going to cool the pan down a little bit. So I'm turning the pan back up to all the way up to high. And we're going to just mix that in and cook that for about 2 to 3 minutes until the onions just start to brown a little bit, right? So 2 to 3 minutes go by. And then the next thing you're going to add is your chili powder, which I have here, brown sugar, and ground cumin. So these are like my chili spices. Now, let's talk chili powder. So the chili powder, you can do one of two things. One, you can buy a good chili powder. You can get them online now. You can get them from supermarkets. But taste them before you add them to chili, because a lot of them are what I like to call top heavy with cumin. So if you like that, that's a good thing. Or